Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am Melissa Thomas. Welcome to today's episode of Good News and Reviews. Of course, my co-host Kathleen is waiting in the wings, and we have a wonderful special guest coming on today, Miss Deborah Watson, who is the producer for an upcoming movie called Not Too Far From Here, and she is the owner of Studio 2.22 Films. So without further ado, let me bring everybody in. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Awesome. So, Deborah, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Yes, absolutely. It's my privilege.
And go ahead, Kathleen.
Yeah. So, Deborah, we're really excited to hear about this movie. We want to know some information, some background about it. I understand that you produce movies, and what is your heart and your vision for the movies that you produce?
Sure. So most of them are offering a message of hope post-traumatic situations, right? So like for this one, being a Christian in a violent world, especially when it's our home, where it's supposed to be a place of refuge and sanctuary, that's the message we really want to hit hard, that there really is hope and it's not too far from here, no matter where your here is. There's way too many people in the Christian family as well as the world that are suffering in silence, and it's affecting 15.5 million children just in our nation alone. And so, not too far from here, partnered up with Kevin Sorbo to direct it, to give an alternative message that there is hope in the aftermath of a violent situation.
As you've been doing these movies that bring hope, and you're finding things possibly in the Christian realm, I mean, a lot of us want to turn the other cheek and pretend like nothing's happening. But I have found, just being in a Christian, because I wasn't raised in the Christian realm, but when I came to know the Lord and I started serving the Lord, I started to notice that people are people. It doesn't matter if they go to church, if they are, people, they're human, people make mistakes, but there's also violence and abuse that happens. And you could be sitting right next to someone in the church who's been there for years, maybe even someone higher up, who's committing maybe abuse or is addicted to drugs. Or what is that kind of what you're seeing, and how you're relating to some of this stuff to help people to
Oh, sure. Yeah, so it actually 2009, 10, and 11 is what impacted my world the most. We lived in St. Louis at the time and knew Chris and Sherry Coleman, and they had two beautiful little boys named Garrett and Gavin. And Chris was Joyce Meyer's security officer, and he chose to end his wife and son's lives to be with his mistress. And when that happened, like, we would have never seen it coming. It just was like the furthest thing, because he was keeping his affair a secret. So nobody knew, including Sherry. And one of our friends was even their nanny, and she didn't ever see any signs of it at all. And I thought, if it can happen to Chris and Sherry, who else could possibly happen to? And there were two more cases after it that helped me see we need to address the issue. And we're choosing to address it through First Nations people. Our leading lady is a teenage girl that's Native American. She witnessed her biological mother kill her father in self-defense. And we meet her as a teenager learning how to cope with the memories that she has.
Wow. And it's really a sad thing, because I feel like a lot of times these things aren't addressed in church settings because they want to not give a bad rep to God, which I totally understand. I've worked in ministry, but they also want to, before they give some type of a penalty to the perpetrator or the person, they want to just move on and forgive. Just forgive. It's no big deal. Just forgive. Or there's women like the woman who was killed by her husband that you were talking about. He was in ministry and no one knew, he was silently going through abuse, covering for her husband because she didn't want to give him a bad name. And, we're taught to submit to our husbands, and husbands love your wives, wives respect your husbands. And I think sometimes there's spiritual abuse that happens in this setting where women aren't sure what they can and can't say and what they're allowed to do biblically, because God hates divorce. So a lot of times they suffer in silence because they don't want to get divorced. What are your thoughts on that?
Sure. So Old Testament actually gives I don't want to say a free pass, but it says if there's adultery, right, that's broken that covenant. I think we have forgotten what covenant really means. And it's because our society is so sex driven. And if it feels good for me, then it's got to be God, right? And we don't stop and look at our spouse. Do they have a relationship with Christ? You know, who are they? Am I dating them just because I enjoy being with them? You know, we're seeing it playing out even with Will and Jada and oh goodness, Johnny Depp and his wife. That showing those videos shows the turmoil that's happening. And you know, it makes me think about when Jesus came and lived and walked the earth. The people were looking for a warrior to save them. And instead, they received a warrior that loved all of humanity. He chose Judas that betrayed him with a kiss, and Peter, who denied him not once, but 3 times. And today, we're delivering a message of hope through the life of a strong Christian teen girl, because she still has that freedom to pray, forgive, and love. Sometimes loving somebody else means walking away from them, because if you're in a relationship that's creating, like, it's not the person that's creating, they're doing the action, right? It's that space and time in between that is creating the conflict. In fact, even for me early on in my marriage, I was probably more the aggressive one, and I had to learn how to fight fair and also accept and appreciate my husband's point of view, even if it went against what my point of view was, so that we can walk through it in love instead of walking through it in, I want to be the one who's always right. Mm-hmm. I feel like for the Christian community, especially, you know, we have this understanding that we have to be this perfect family, right, without conflicts, but we're not willing to reach out to coaches or counselors to get the help because it's new. You know, when you first get married, that's all new. And if you don't have somebody mentoring and walking with you through that, it's going to have its ups and downs. But when you have Christ as the center of it, you can work things out, even if that means a divorce, because there's adultery or things of abuse that are happening or addictions. People can heal, you know, and you can separate for a season or short season so that the enemy doesn't completely destroy you as a person. But I don't think God honors 2 people living under the same roof that are constantly at each other. And I know he definitely does not approve of murder or suicide.
Yes. And what about now? I mean, we're hearing these words in the media so prevalent, like you were saying about Johnny Depp. I was reading something about how Howard Stern was saying that Johnny is a narcissist. And I've been hearing this a lot, gaslighting, narcissist. There's mental issues and stuff. And for people who are Christians, we tend to think that God has delivered people from this stuff and they don't deal with mental problems. That shouldn't be a Christian, doesn't have those issues. But those things do happen, and we're learning more and more about this. And really, we can't change people. So in this situation with, you know, abuse going on and how you're bringing awareness, what would be the first step for somebody to recognize maybe this is more than just a relationship issue? This is abusive or toxic.
Yes, absolutely. Counseling, number 1. Pastors can't. My dad was an American Baptist pastor, and he was in a small farm community, and he had a lot of things that he dealt with because he didn't just minister on Sunday and Wednesday night. He was there for the community as a whole, and they can't solve everybody's problems. So he teamed up with other people within the community, and he would listen to their situation and say, okay, here's somebody that can help you with the mental illness. Here's somebody that can help you with the drug abuse and the alcoholism. Here's somebody that can help you with the sex addiction, you know. And so he teamed up with other people because as a pastor and as a leader, you're responsible for that flock, but there's only so much that one person can do. And you have to be able to depend on one another and be able to lead strong And there's absolutely nothing wrong with receiving good counsel from somebody. In fact, when I went to speak to a counselor, he he did miracles for me because he's like, Deborah, you've never been married before. You've never gone through the situation that you're going through right now. So let's just take a step back and deal with you because you're responsible for you. When you die and stand before God, you're only accountable for your actions, your decisions, and how you treat those that you love and care about. And that was really good for me to go through in my 20s because then that empowered me to be a better person and let go of some things that I kind of picked up as bad habits along the way. And so I feel like, especially when people get married, in Wichita, one of the churches we went to, it was called Central Christian Church. Joe White was the pastor there. And anybody that came to him and said, hey, we want to get married, great. We're teaming you up with this family over here. They've been married 15 years or longer. That way, when you have problems, don't go to your peers who may or may not be married, who are learning and growing at the same level you are. We want you to counsel with these people that have gone through it. You know, they're still together after 15 years. Let them be your confidant. And that is such wisdom because then you're doing it biblically with the Titus 2 mentorship program concept instead of leaning all on one person as the pastor to solve everybody's problems. They just can't do it.
Yeah, that's so true. And, there's such a high, and God holds marriage in such high regard. And I know we do as believers. The Bible says God hates divorce. And I believe that's because of the effects of it. But like you were saying earlier, there's a time and a place if someone's going through abuse, that separation, or being cheated on, committing adultery. I hear all the time, stand for your marriage, he can change, or people saying stuff like that to other people about marriage. And that's understandable. God can soften hearts, but people have a free will. And if somebody is choosing to be a certain way and they're not able to recognize, the things they are, or they're trying to push the blame, then there's no hope. You know what I'm saying? So God can change someone's free will. And so I believe I was listening to a Focus on the Family or something, and James Dobson or somebody was saying, God hates divorce, but he doesn't hate those who divorce. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we look at that like that's the worst thing. You sign this thing and you can never get out. But in some situations, I've interviewed people where they've heard the voice of the Lord tell them, get out now. Like they audibly heard it for their own safety. And so I think in the church we need more awareness, and I believe your movie is going to bring more awareness about abuse and about you have a book. Is the book something people can read? Does it correlate completely with the movie as well?
So I actually went through Jerry Jenkins' Writer's Apprenticeship Program. There's not a book that I wrote about it. There is a book called Not Too Far From Here. Kim Boyce Kariba is the one who wrote that. And she had sang a song called Not Too Far From Here back in the 80s that really ministered to me. And I called her up because she lives here in Branson, Missouri, where we live, and said, hey, I'm thinking about doing a film on this and would love to partner up with you with the song. And she's like, I don't have rights to the song, but I literally just got a copy of my book that I wrote, Not Too Far From Here, Moving from Hurt to Hope. And it's not a book on divorce. It's a book on a situation that her and her husband went through with an employer where she was wounded very deeply by how they treated him. And she had to learn the power of forgiveness in that situation. And I highly recommend it to anyone and everyone that if you're dealing with any kind of hurt, it doesn't matter if it's in your relationships with your spouse, your children, your parents, your employer. Kim's book really helps get down to the nitty gritty of, hey, life is hard sometimes, but you don't have to stay stuck in that hurt position because hurting people hurt people, and you can end up becoming part of the problem instead of the solution. So you can get it on Amazon. Highly recommend it. People that I've talked to that have read the book, it's one of those books they go back and read year after year because it's so impactful for just any kind of situation.
That's great. Well, we want to learn more about your movie, when it's going to come out, what you have going on with it, more details. So stay with us. We're going to head into a commercial and we'll be right back.
The Florida Lottery is proud to support education by contributing billions of dollars to Florida schools and awarding countless Bright Future scholarships so Florida students can do more than just dream of a brighter future. They can create one. Learn more at flalottery.com.
And we are back, guys, with good news and reviews. We're here talking with Deborah Watson and getting in very, very, very deep. So, yeah, we wanted to get into talking a little bit more about the film Not Too Far From Here. So go ahead, Deborah.
Sure. So we decided to address it through the life of a teenage Christian girl who's also Native American. And I chose them because of my Cherokee heritage that began its dissolution 5 generations ago on the Trail of Tears.
Wow.
And my husband is Saginaw Chippewa, up out of Michigan. And my mother-in-law shared with me about how the Christian schools treated the tribal people in the 50s. You guys, that's 1950, not the 1800s. That was my mother-in-law. And there needs to be some reconciliation that happens between the First Nation people and the Christian community. And we have 7 different tribes out of Oklahoma that are teaming up with us to help bring this to fruition. And we're hoping to get to set by September to film it. And it will take about 6 months for post-production to take place. So we're still working on funding. And once we get the funding in place, we can greenlight it and go forward.
Wow. Beautiful picture. It looks like you have the actresses and actors in place. You said Kevin Sorbo is involved with this film. Tell us a little bit about his involvement.
You know, that is such a beautiful story, and I'll give you the short version. As the curator for the Branson International Film Festival, there was a film that was submitted called The Reliant, and Kevin was in that. It's a great film done on Second Amendment right in a family, and without giving it away, if you haven't seen it, there's a teenage daughter that doesn't like guns, and I can see why when they reveal why. But I reached out to Doc Johnston that wrote it, and I said, hey, I've got a full feature I'm working on. Do you think it's something that Kevin would be interested in? He's like, well, send me the summary. And I did. And he like instantly wrote back. He's like, I'm all on board. I've given him opportunities to get off the project. And he's like, no, Deb, we have to see this to fruition. It's too powerful of a story to leave it alone. So we've had to make some changes because of COVID. You know, we wanted to do SAG-AFTRA, but their requirements are just, I don't have the budget for it. So we had to let go of some things, but because of letting go of those, it ended up opening doors with the Native American tribes in Oklahoma. So I'm so happy for the delay, because delay does not mean denied.
That's beautiful. Well, I'm excited. And what is your hope to bring to this film to help people maybe to gain understanding about, and then do you have anything coming up after that?
Sure. So the girl you see riding the horse, we did a play on the horse's names. Lindsay, she used to ride Hope all the time, but Hope is a very free-spirited horse now for some reason and unpredictable. So she switched to Nobody, because she can trust nobody. He's always dependable and faithful and there for her. And I'm not going to give away the end. They'll have to watch. But once we get done with this, one of the things we've been doing, and our goal is, we actually have wristbands that have the National Domestic Violence Hotline number on it that they can text message love is to the number 22522, and will instantly connect them with somebody that can help them find resources in their community, no matter where they live in the United States. And our goal was to get 1 million of them into the hands of police departments and first responders across the nation. Right now, we've got a little over 5,000 that have made it into those locations. Tallahassee, Florida is one of them too. So we're pretty excited about that aspect. And the biggest thing is, I want to see those numbers driven down. 15.5 million children should not be raised up in homes that violence is normal. So if we can help heal the hearts of mom and dad, then that's going to heal the hearts of the children. And I believe beyond a shadow of a doubt, if we stand together as a nation and walk in love versus violence, we will see a lot more change in our nation than what we have been seeing the past few years. Because what's been happening in the past couple, 2 or 3 years, it's not working. And there's a reason that it's not working, because violence never solves anything. But when people learn how to walk in love, hear and respect one another, even when they disagree with each other's opinion, you can end up having some healing that happens, that it just brings hope. And it's not too far from here, no matter where your here is.
That's so good. And I'm sure through this, there'll be other organizations that will bring hope to people. There'll be other organizations coming together alongside you, because domestic violence, as we're talking about, comes in all forms, shapes, and sizes when it comes to, even in school situations, at home, and having awareness is going to be key. So I really believe this is going to be something that's going to help bring a lot of awareness to people and hopefully start changing the trajectory of a lot of homes here in America.
I 100% agree with you. In fact, Shane Grammer, who's an artist out of California, he has the Art for Hope Foundation, that he's actually going into the Native American communities and doing murals to help bring restoration. And then the Modoc Indian tribe in Oklahoma, they just bought an 80-acre horse ranch, and they already do equestrian therapy with an organization out of Kansas called Horses for Hope. And so when we bring exposure to what these people are already doing that others can duplicate, that's going to be a huge win when we start seeing it rise up in other places too.
Wow, that's wonderful. And do you have any other movies? You said you're a producer. Have you produced other movies? Can we get links to or information on, or is this your first real major project?
So this is my first full feature. I did my vanity production in St. Louis. I did a short film called Tanny Como, and then I did a pilot for a television comedy about the Proverbs 31 woman called Ruby Unleashed. But I'm really dedicating my time to this one. I have 15 others in my collection, but there's so many amazing script writers around me. I'm setting some of those aside to help them rise up with their stories as well, because they're just as important as mine. And when we stand together as a community, that's when we can see beautiful things happen. So it's going to be worth it. I stopped at 18. I think it takes 3 to 5 years. That's going to pull me through to my 80s. So I think that's a good track record to stay at. So
wow, that is amazing. It's a lot of work to write and do what you're doing. So that's great. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'd like to wrap it up with you with some final thoughts and ways to get connected and to learn more about your project. Thank you again for being with us, and we'll be right back.
I'm not picking it up. You pick it up.
I'm not picking it up.
Well, somebody's got to pick it up.
I'll pick it up. They're clean. 'Cause my hand is clean. Oh yeah, I'm Charmin clean. That's how I know they're clean.
Charmin Ultra Strong is woven like a washcloth and just cleans better.
Yeah, I'm Charmin clean.
The kid does have a
That's
point.
My hand is clean. Yeah.
Enjoy the go with Charmin. And for an extra clean finish, try Charmin Flushable Wipes.
And welcome back to Good News and Reviews, everybody. We are here with Deborah Watson. So yeah, go ahead, Kathleen, any other questions you might have.
So tell us again the name of the movie and what your expected date for release possibly might be, and kind of a quick, brief overview of this movie.
Sure. So people can get more information at studio222films.com. Click on the link that says films and go to Not Too Far From Here. We do have a fiscal sponsor if people want to donate to the project to help us, whether it's the Wristbands of Hope or just a cash donation that they'll get a tax return on. We do have an opportunity for investors that want to have an ROI on it as well and have a pitch deck available for them. We really want to get to set in September, because February is Teen Dating of Violence Awareness Month. And if we're out there and just nail it when the kids are being influenced by that whole topic, and then all of a sudden they see this message of hope, that's our ultimate goal. And we've had to push it out filming because of COVID, and now's the time. Like, there's just this urgency that I feel inside of me that now is literally the time, because we could end up missing that open door to save people's lives. And I've watched too many of these kind of stories playing out in real life around me that it's got to stop. So I think we can do it together when the church stands together, when people stand together for something bigger than themselves, that's when we see beauty happen. And that's when we see miracles in motion. So
That's so true. And if there's someone watching right now who maybe in their home, maybe they're a stay-at-home wife, or maybe they're at work and they've got a lot of burden on them. There's maybe things that they're keeping in secret or private, and they're afraid and they don't know if they should stay or go, or they're in a bad situation. Maybe even these young people. How can we know, first of all, that they're being in a situation like maybe they don't even know what abuse is, or a toxic situation? Do you have ideas, thoughts, or resources that you would just like to share, either to give hope or maybe, like I said, a resource?
yeah, for sure. So in all of us, we have our faith-driven emotions here, and we have our fear-driven emotions here. They do meet in the middle, and that's where we find courage. So by you reaching out to somebody and being courageous enough, even if it's just text messaging love is to the number 22522 and asking, just saying, hey, I feel depressed. I don't feel like I'm being abused, but I feel like I'm depressed whenever my husband walks into the room or my wife walks into the room. What should I do? Keep it simple. Go ahead and just touch it on the surface, and then let it kind of work its way down one day at a time. Because I tell you, I don't want to see any more cases like the Chris Coleman case. I want to see more cases like Mary's House of Hope. Even though her life was lost, her family is standing up together for those that feel like they are without hope. And you guys, the shelters are so packed full right now, but a phone call could save your life or the friend's life. So if you don't have knowledge, but you think maybe one of your friends or a coworker even is showing up to work with unexpected bruises or calling out sick, it's involved. Please get involved. I'd rather you be wrong and feel a little bit of, oh, wow, I was totally wrong, than being right and doing nothing, because that's worse than the crime itself.
That's so true. And, you know, we keep seeing more and more of this with people being killed, you know, in the news, looking like they have these great marriages or these great relationships. And it's kind of scary because you don't know exactly what's going on behind closed doors. Nobody does. I mean, we have Facebook, we have all these social media places where you see, oh, marriage is great. I know of a couple who they look like they had such a great marriage, and then the next week you're hearing about them going through a divorce. And so not always as it seems, and that's the hardest part. A lot of times, whether it's the male or the female, they're covering up, you know, for that relationship. And it's unfortunate, but seeing signs of it, like you said, if someone says that they're feeling depressed, or if they're always down, you know, it'd be something to take note of, you know, and to be aware of, I think. So, and there's definitely resources online as well, and also going to places where they can get help, like shelters. They are packed. I'm sure they're pretty packed with people. And so having more of those would be a wonderful thing. And hopefully with your movie, it will help bring up some of this, bring more resources to people.
Yes, we actually, that's one of our goals, is to put 10% of the total profit into a money-making machine. So that way the interest from that investment is actually already earmarked for 12 different shelters across the United States. So that way they know every year perpetually until, I mean, it would never run out, because investments are like, the interest is always going to be there. So they know that they can be dependable on at least getting however much it is that comes in. So if you can't help now, when it gets released, come watch the movie, because your ticket sale will help 12 shelters across the United States and around the world as well.
And that's actually the perfect transition point. So we're going to actually run the trailer for you guys. And yes, you do get at least a vocal appearance from Kevin Sorbo. He is the narrator for this particular trailer. So take a look at this and check it out.
Lindsay was safe with her horse, Nobody, at Papa George's ranch. She could depend on him no matter what. Then Jackson came to the ranch and admitted betraying her trust. In that moment, Lindsay knew She had to let hope carry her instead. Hi, I'm Kevin Sorbo, director of Not Too Far From Here. As a father of a teenage daughter and 2 teenage sons, I know how tough relationships are on kids today. They deal with adult issues at a much younger age, and yet, even in the midst of it all, there is still hope not too far from here, no matter where your here is. Will you help us spread the desperately needed message of hope our next generation needs? Reach us at studio222films.com. That's studio222films.com. Thank you for listening.
And there you have it, guys.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being with us. I'm looking forward to the film and all that you have. You're very creative, and I'm sure we'll have you back on again, maybe even Kevin. I've interviewed Kevin before. Both of us have. So hopefully we'll get to interview him about your movie and find out just how it's coming along, and we'll stay in progress with you on that as well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Deborah. We appreciate you.
It was my honor and privilege, for sure.
Absolutely. So in a slight change in the show, guys, do remember that the show will be good news and reviews, okay? So we are now going to head into the reviews portion. Deb, we love you. We definitely want to have you back on. So talk to you later. Take care.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Absolutely. So in the review portion, my lovely co-host, Kathleen, she did mention that there is a book that she's reading right now. And so I want to kind of hand over the mic to her, and then we'll kind of get into the conversation to find out more about that. Go ahead, Kathleen.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I know that our show is usually a half hour. We're going a little bit over, but we'll just do a little review on this. This is The Power of Now. And it's a book that I just started recently reading. I haven't read through it, only the first couple chapters, and then the relationship portion, which was very intriguing to me. And this guy doesn't claim to have any real he's a spiritual teacher, but he doesn't align himself with anything. So it's not like a Christian book or any of that. But what I've liked about it so far is that there are some spiritual aspects that I do believe in, and about when you read it, you start to see scripture through it, even though there's no scripture in it. So for me, it's that way. And he talks about the power of now, meaning focusing on the current moment, not on the past or the future. And sometimes, most times, we take our past into our present, and it ruins our present. Or we can't enjoy the present because we're so focused on the future and what's this going to happen, and we worry. And so what I appreciate about this is really grasping the ability of focusing on now, focusing on this is the moment we have. Whatever happened yesterday happened. We can't change it. We can only burn with anger, frustration, regret, or thankfulness, depending on the state of being or what's happened. So it's really learning to let go of the past and forgive it, and to move forward is what I've got so far out of the book. Like I said, I'm still in the midst of it. I do think it's a great book so far. I do believe it's important because we have these thoughts about ourselves. We try to protect ourselves, protect our ego. And a lot of that comes out in the way that we act or react. And so when he addresses this, it brings more awareness to your conscience, and uses words about like enlightenment. This is not to me like a new age enlightenment in the sense of meditation and being enlightened. It's more being enlightened about yourself and who you are, and the thing, taking your thoughts captive. Even the Bible says every thought captive. And that's what this does. It brings awareness to those thoughts. And so I definitely recommend it. It's so far so good. And it's really something that will help with analyzing ourselves and what's behind our motives and living in the now.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate you, Kathleen. And guys, look forward to more segments like these, because of course our show is called Good News and Reviews. So we'll be reviewing anything, you know what I mean? Movies, books, products, you know what I mean? You'll be seeing a lot more of that. And of course, we're here for you Thursdays at noon. Our shows are always Thursdays at noon. So we'll have our guests, we'll have our positive topics, we'll have our reviews. Kathleen, thank you so much for staying on a little extra. to get that review in. And ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed today's show, please comment, share it, like, and of course, follow us, subscribe. You can find us at Florida National News or FNN News TV. If you're watching on Facebook, if you're on YouTube, be sure to click that subscribe button and the bell icon at Florida National News. That way you get all of our notifications for all of our shows. And as you can see, we do run ads on our segment. So if you or someone you know has a small business or even a bigger business and you're looking to expand your audience, we here at Florida National News are here for you with that. So if you are ready to take that next step, we are ready and waiting for you. Just shoot us an email at ads@floridanationalnews.com. But in the meantime, Kathleen, thank you so much for joining me. Always a pleasure to have you.
You too, Melissa. Have a great day. Thank you.
Absolutely. You guys take care. Have a great rest of your Thursday, and we will see you next Thursday for another edition of Good News and Reviews. You guys take care.